Each year, Microsoft Research hosts hundreds of influential speakers from around the world, including leading scientists, renowned experts in technology, book authors, and leading academics, and makes videos of these lectures freely available.
Hey, welcome. I'm Curtis Wong, Principal Researcher at Microsoft Research, and I'd like to welcome you all here to 2011 Design Expo. All of you in the audience. We have, for the first time, we're streaming live, and so I'd like to welcome those of you online watching, and our last count was over, I think, 400. And for some of you, this will be your first time seeing Design Expo. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about what we're all about. So what is Design Expo? Expo is really about dialogue, connection, and community. The Expo is part of Faculty Summit because it shares a similar goal of providing a dialogue for Microsoft and academia to be able to discuss topics of shared interest around the future of technology, and in our case, design. The Expo is also a mechanism to directly connect faculty and students with the Microsoft design community. And that part of the process is really to help the students and the teams there to facilitate innovative design. So the third part, and a great result of these kind of connections that happen, is really about the formation of community that's formed over the years between students, faculty, and those of us in the design community here at Microsoft. So the work you will see here today is sort of has its roots about 9 months ago when we selected 6 universities hosting leading interaction design programs from universities around the world. And we provided them with a design challenge to explore. This year's challenge is called Get Connected and Stay Connected. And it explores the promise of real-time data transmission and seamless connectivity. With the proliferation of mobile devices, cameras, and other sensors controlled, combined with cloud computing and pervasive connectivity, the technologies exist now to greatly simplify the ability to get connected and stay connected. How do we design experiences that leverage these technologies and create opportunities to engage others in a more meaningful way? To address that challenge, we have each of these schools conducting an interaction design class sometime between last fall and this spring to explore these themes. Within each program, there are multiple students in that class. There are multiple teams that are put together of students to interpret the theme and conduct design exploration through user research, scenarios, prototyping, and interface simulations, which culminates in the design presentation that you're going to see today. At our first expo a number of years ago, there was actually very little interaction between schools and some of the students perceived Design Expo as a competition. And many regretted that they didn't really have the time to see anything other than sort of the inside of this particular conference center. So the following year, we created a game called Clueless in Seattle, which is a scavenger hunt game that we run every year since then. And it's kind of a tradition and a highlight for students that come here. What we do is we form teams of students from every school into an individual team. So nobody knows each other. And then we take them and bring them into downtown Seattle. And we have a number of clue sheets that we provide them with. The first location is the Seattle Public Library. And in each location, we have dozens of different clues that they look for that give them an idea of sort of what the next location will be. And they get points for this. So this process of working together as a team, one of the other things they do is they take pictures of themselves outside of these sort of iconic locations. But by the end of the competition, what you have is you see this combination of students and a singularity amongst them that you really can't tell that they're from different schools around the world. So that process has become really integral and key to forming the community of students that have been here to Design Expo. And those relationships have persisted over the years, and it's part of sort of our heritage now. So part of this process of the Design Expo with the design liaisons is they're taking time out of their busy work schedule to spend time and visit the schools and work with the faculty and the students to guide them through this design process. And I'd like to acknowledge those individuals with a round of applause for all the hard work that they've done. Some of them are backstage, but some of them are in the audience. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to hand it over to Mike Kasparov, who's our co-host of Design Expo. And Mike will tell you more about the program for today.
All right, thank you. This is my 7th year doing Design Expo with Curtis, and it's been a real honor, obviously, and something that I look forward to doing every year. So the way today works, there's 2 buttons. We're a little confused. The way today works is each school has about a half an hour. As Curtis said, the design challenge was given to the school, and the school incorporated that into their program. As a result, not everybody who participated actually ends up here today. So what we're going to do initially is we're going to introduce a member of the faculty from each of the schools. They're going to tell you a little bit about their process, the program that they ran, and some of the students who weren't able to make it here today, and some of the projects that they had worked on within the context of Design Expo, but that you won't be aware of today as a result. So that's the first bit. Then what we're going to do is we're going to introduce the schools. The schools have about 15 minutes. Actually, it's 15 minutes. I say about because some will be slightly shorter. And then once that's complete, we have an esteemed panel of critics who are going to provide some feedback to the students about the project or the system that they're showing, and talk about some ways that it might improve, some things that they've thought about which they think are really cool. So what I thought I would do is introduce to you the panel of esteemed, I'm going to keep saying esteemed critics. And what I'm going to ask them to do is when I call their name and I do their introduction, if they could stand up and wave so that you know who's speaking when they're speaking. So first off, and it seems sort of silly to introduce him because you probably are all aware of him if you're in the design community at Microsoft, is Bill Buxton. Bill, you want to stand up? Bill is a principal researcher here, and he's a recognized leader in human computing interaction, design, and innovation. Very close to my heart as well because he's from Toronto as well. He's a regular columnist for Business Week and formerly was chief scientist at Alias Wavefront and SGI and has a multitude of industry awards and honors that are too numerous to even begin to acknowledge here given the limits of time. Is that good? Excellent, good. Next, we have Lisa Strausfeld. You want to stand up and wave? That's Lisa. Lisa studied art history and computer science at Brown, earned a master's degree in architecture from Harvard and in media arts at MIT. She was formerly a partner at Pentagram, a major design firm in New York, which you may all be very familiar with, and recently launched a new venture in data visualization. Last year, Lisa was awarded the Smithsonian Cooper Hewitt National Design Award at the White House by President Obama, which is great. And last but not least, Faris Jacob. Do you want to? There's Faris. Yeah. Faris is the Chief Innovation Officer at MDC Partners. Prior to that, he was the EVP and Chief Technology Strategist at McCann Erickson, another very large ad agency in New York. He's currently also the co-founder of Spies and Assassins, which is a technology boutique in New York City that's doing some really amazing stuff. He writes a lot about brands, media communications, technology for a number of magazines, including Forbes, Fast Company, Financial Times, Maxim, Media Week, Ad News, and others. So that's our group of esteemed critics. And so what I'm going to do now, without further ado, is I'm going to introduce to you Nathan Auer, who is going to tell you a little bit about what happened at University of Washington, which is our first school up today. So thanks for coming. Thanks everyone online, and sit back and enjoy.
Thanks so much. Let's see if I got the right one here. Terrific, we do. So, hello everybody. My name is Nathan Auer. This is Yang Ri. We're both with the Office Experience Group, which is part of RED inside of Office, which stands for Research, Envisioning, and Design. And this is my first year as a liaison here, but Yang's been here for a little while and has sort of a unique personal experience that I've asked him to share today.
Thanks, Nathan. So 4 years ago, I was in the same spot as these students presenting to the crowd like this from Carnegie Mellon. And what I like to share is really the emphasis on what it was and what it really meant to me as a student coming to here and being able to present to the crowd here, the audience here.
is that really it's a great opportunity to meet different kinds of design students and the design crowd that actually sort of breathe design elsewhere, not just here in Redmond or the United States, but in China, in Europe, in South America, and so on. And that was a great opportunity for students to not only meet the students, but also you who are sitting here, the professionals who work in the design field, and be able to connect with that. So I really would love to encourage all of you to meet the students later on and talk about the presence project at the Demo Fest that's going on in the afternoon. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Yang. All right, so quickly, a little bit about the University of Washington's Interaction Design program. It's now entering its 6th year as part of the Division of Design at the UW School of Art. Its approach to interaction design is an interdisciplinary one. Design studios are open to all HCI-related and interested majors, from computer science to informatics, human-centered design, engineering design. Students work on teams with HCI students. They represent the technology, psychology, the social sciences perspectives. And also, of note, the UW is in the process of launching a cross-departmental one-year master's, which should roll out in 2012. And that's a joint effort across the Computer Science and Engineering Department, Human-Centered Design Engineering, the iSchool, and the Division of Design. I have to give a quick shout out to Axel. I am not Axel. I'm not the instructor for this program. I'm just the liaison and had a lot of fun doing it this year. But Axel was terrific to work with, both for us and also for the students. He was very respectful and very articulate and individual with an easy ability to sort of zero in on problems and help people work through them. So there was so much good stuff this year. As noted, we had 5 different projects. The class was junior level class, 23 different students, all of them going through all the various stages of design, starting with literally a white sheet of paper, ending up with these video prototypes, some of the work that you'll see today. And I do want to acknowledge those that are not here today really quickly. Common Ground, this was a project that was about connecting by taking initiative, facilitating volunteering and building community. Where I'm from, where I'm going, these were these beautiful photo paths that sort of formed a collective identity. Lovely work. Social phones, phones that connect in close proximity during social interactions. Treat Me, which was about connecting with yourself and staying connected with yourself, something you've always wanted to do. Yeah, right, it's a challenge. I like the giggles. It's one of those issues, right? And then Continuum, which was a family network platform across really long generational spans of time that then formed these collective stories. And all of these were really fantastic. However, they weren't this year's selection, which is what I'm about to bring out. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to this year's selection, Origin. And I'll bring to the stage Vu Chu, Ben Mabry, Nicholas Smith, Danya Ulgan, and Jason Wong. Please give them a warm welcome. Let them know you appreciate them being here, and have a great time, you guys.
Okay, ready? Yeah. Okay, when we first got the brief for this, some of the words that kind of stuck out, or Curtis mentioned earlier, was about the explosion of devices and cameras and data, and also cloud computing and pervasive connectivity. And so naturally we kind of landed on a bunch of ideas that were kind of like mobile applications and social networking. And we were looking around at maybe augmenting reality with GPS coordinates and hopefully facilitating conversations that people could have in the physical world digitally, maybe using connectivity to help people monitor their energy usage or even share chores. But we ended up having this one question that kept coming back up over and over. And that was like, if we create one of these things, are people actually going to find it useful, or is this going to be something that it actually just becomes kind of digital noise in the background in a world where our relationship to technology is already pretty complex? And that kind of led us to our first big insight on this project, is that we are pretty well connected already. Do we really need to be more connected, or should we rather spend our time getting better connected to the information that we already have? And that led us to thinking about information. What makes information like one piece of information better than another piece of information? Like, how do you sift through things that are seemingly random and tease out kind of the meaningful information out of that? And that made us think about what really is important, and that's that context is king. Information really doesn't do anything for you unless it's in the right context. So, I don't want to spend any extra brain cycles thinking about something like my dry cleaning unless I'm loading up to leave my house or I'm near a dry cleaning place and I can drop that off. If you're thinking about that in any other time of your day, it's just noise in the background. So that led to the question of, how can we help people remember the right things at the right times? And our approach to this was to do some research into the psychology of memories. And so there we actually found this very interesting phenomenon called priming. And the way priming works is we have, every memory that we have sort of exists in this web or network with other memories. And so if I'm thinking of like my 14th birthday, naturally I'm going to be thinking about my family and presents and toys and obviously cake and the different types of cake. And each one of those memories then has its associated memories. But what's interesting about this phenomenon is that when you recall a memory, like the primary memory of your 14th birthday, it brings forward not only the secondary but the tertiary relationships and even more distant connections than that. So seemingly unrelated things like my 14th birthday and angels, I'll be able to recall the angels more quickly because my memory has been primed to do that. And that kind of led to our final insight, is that we should prime information so that it's ready for you when you need it. And so the end result of that is that we really made the conscious decision not to design a social network or an app, and we really wanted to try to design something that was going to be a platform for helping you connect better to your data.
So that's the theory, but what does that mean in terms of what our current user experience is? So for many of us, what it means is that our desktop is dead. Like our physical ones, many of us have actually outgrown the metaphor. And although we have these elaborate file systems that help us to keep things organized, what really happens is that this type of rigid linear system actually buries a huge amount of our content. Right, so we've all had this experience where somebody comes to us and asks us for a file, and it's a file we used just yesterday, right after lunch for 5 minutes, right before that thunderstorm kicked in. And despite the fact that we have all these details in our memory, we can't actually find the folder. So we end up clicking in and out of these folders, getting increasingly frustrated. So that brings up this big question, which is, why is it when we can locate something so exactly in our memory, can't we locate it on our computers? The reason is because our computers at the moment don't catalog information the way that our brains do. So, as we know, our brains make a real effort to take information and constantly collect additional context, which builds associations that allow us to recall that information later through any number of those associations, any number of triggers. What it doesn't do is give things singular names that often in retrospect end up being quite arbitrary. So most of us, when we go to locate files now, locate it by name and folder location. But what we really need to be able to do is say, where is that file that I worked on with Ben just the other day, right after lunch, and maybe even before that storm kicked in. Now, if we can get our computers to do that, what we have is a much more dynamic system which uses our natural memory as an asset. Now, there's a lot of things that we can already collect in terms of context from our activity on our computers themselves. But by taking advantage of growing seamless connectivity and the ubiquity of sensors on our smart devices, we can start to collect even more of this context. And of course, as we collect more of this context, we can start to match our natural memory more accurately. So on a really basic level, Origin is a file management system that delivers the files that you want to you when you need them. But it also makes finding everything else easy. And for the user, we should clarify that we don't think this replaces our current folder systems. what Origin does do is allow you to access information that would otherwise be lost through more of your natural associations.
This is my user Pei. He works downtown at an architecture firm. He specializes in spilling coffee on himself, staring at the ceiling, and falling asleep at his desk. He tries to keep his cool around his partner Jones. They get a good working relationship. Sometimes they go out for pizza together. They get a lot of stuff done, they work long hours, and they pine over every last detail. And in the event that they actually decide on something, they can't remember where they saved the file or what they called it. So it's my job to help them out. I'm going to go ahead and mark this file with the time of day, the people present, the location based on GPS, and the file type. You can use these contextual data points later to retrieve your file. You see, I make it a whole lot easier. Yep, still here, in the pocket. Alright, looks like we're at the Market Street project. Let me get this for you. Market Street, Jones, March 3rd, 3:55 p.m. I'll remember that, don't worry. You again. You look like you're gonna need a little help today. Alright, just ask me. Okay, Market Street presentation? Oh, you guys are really pushing this project. Look, if you need a photo, I recommend opening the filter box. Now drag the icon of the file type you need into the box. This will narrow down the results significantly. If you don't see what you want, I can give you more, just ask. You know, I bet you're looking for that Market Street job site photo. How much you want to bet? Maybe some more RAM, better CPU performance? I win every time. You know, I was looking through your emails and I would... You're home. I miss being home. You know, I can't help but notice that things have changed around here a little bit. The Notebook, Legends of the Fall. Okay, look, she's going out of the room. Could you do me a quick favor and drag her icon out? Okay. Oh, looks like some better preferences here. Okay, Star Wars, excellent choice. Now this is gonna be a little rough for a second here. I want you to play it cool. This is our time. Now who do you think would win in a fight anyway? Carrie Underwood or Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia? Yeah, this part's not supposed to be funny. Yeah. Oh. Jones calling. Alright, let's make this brief. You got your files ready to go up on Origin if you need them. Alright, just drag the file he needs onto his icon in the primer. Okay, he's got it. He's happy, you're happy, I'm happy. She looks... happy.
Okay, so now that we've seen a scenario, can you pause that for a second? Now that we've seen a scenario, we'll spend a little time just looking into the actual interface of it. So you saw in the back end how a variety of markers can be used to put data into a context, and then how that context can be used to generate a list of relevant files, and then how those markers could then be used to customize and filter that file set. So go ahead and start that again.
It looks like it's freezing.
Oh, okay. Sorry, timing's a little off. Yeah.
It says it's playing.
Okay. And then there's the primer. The primer is something that's running constantly in the background, and it's keeping track of all the changes that are going on in your environment. So if someone calls or stops by or emails you or anything like that, it'll keep track of that for you so that later on you can come back to it without having to break your train of thought and go searching through a bunch of file folders looking for it. So then you just go back to it when it's convenient, and all the stuff that you need will be there that's relevant to that particular person. And then we also wanted to create something that allowed you to create workflows based on particular files. So if you drag a file and create a new folder out of it, that file is then going to be populated with the relevant files for that seed. And all of that stuff works pretty well for your routine, but what about for things that are completely unrelated that you can't remember the last time you worked on it? And that's kind of what this project is all about. And, this is a problem already right now. It's always been a problem, and you can assume that in the future when there's more data, more devices, you're connected more, it's just going to get harder and harder. So how does this work? Right now we have to remember a file name and maybe a folder location and possibly find it based on timestamp. But even with everyone's carrying around smartphones, we can start adding in extra layers like GPS location and cardinal direction and even proximity to people in your social network. And in the future, with more devices, more data, more sensors, we actually think that it could get easier to find what you're looking for rather than more difficult. Because while we have a really hard time remembering all of these little details, computers are really good at it. So if we just hand it over to computers, having more data actually makes it easier to find what you're looking for because computers can go through all of that data and find the really key nuanced differentials that identify one file as unique versus another file. And so you can probably imagine a lot of situations just in your life where this might be useful. We've all had some sort of very vivid memory in our minds where we can remember everything like the smells, the sounds, the colors, the textures, but we can't remember really mundane little details like the name of a song. And so what we're imagining is that you could just come to our system and just start typing in anything that you can remember about the context. So maybe I was just saying, I'm looking for a song. I know I was with Ben. We were driving somewhere through the Midwest on a road trip on a really nice night, eating some really bad food from the Quickie Mart, and what was the name of that really bad song that we were listening to? So back to the topic of getting connected and staying connected, we think that by building a framework that does all of the heavy lifting for us, that we'll be free to really make use of the wealth of information at our fingertips, and that by framing our data in terms of context and association, rather than trying to force this old metaphor of the physical object located in a physical location on it, that we're going to open up the door to new, rich user experiences that adapt to the user's life and possibly even be able to predict what users need in the future. And so, we've been burdening ourselves for so long trying to do all the little things, remember all the little details that computers are so good at doing. So we're suggesting maybe we should just let the computers do what they do best so that we're free to do what we do best. Thank you. So I think we're supposed to go over You should stand up by then.
We can hear you.
We can hear you, but...
Hear you well.
If they could be larger, in case anything I say is vaguely salient, maybe on would be useful. Oh wait, here it is. That looks promising. This looks promising.
My guess is that
Hello?
maybe you're not turning it back.
Hello. Oh, there you go. Hi. Hello. It's always daunting going first, isn't it? Well done. That was great. That was really lovely. I thought it was really impressive. I'll kind of go through what I thought as I thought it and then see if anything seems relevant. Does that seem helpful? And then you can feel free to jump in and riff or whatever. That seems good. I thought that the framework was really excellent. The insight is hugely potent, in my opinion. One of the biggest single challenges that I think enterprises of any scale face is knowledge management, personal knowledge management, interpersonal knowledge management. It's a huge problem. And there's no, without wanting to talk about any kind of corporate solutions to those problems, lots of people trying to find ways to do these things, and that's not been solved as yet. I liked your dismissal of the desktop metaphor, particularly considering the context that we're all currently in. But I think you're right. I remember seeing the lead developer at South by Southwest on the Windows 7 platform for mobile talking that the desktop metaphor has become onerous. It's no longer useful to us. It's become a problem, essentially. I think your reference to priming was interesting, but I'm not sure entirely. So priming as a behavioral economic function doesn't just recall things faster, it also dictates what will be recalled, if you see what I mean. So it actually distorts things as well as being useful in some aspects, but worth considering how you think about priming, I guess. I think your point that way computers currently are operated is primarily linear, and the way that we think is hypertextual is super, super valuable. Because it was always intended to be hypertextual, right? Like Ted Nelson's Memex thing, all that stuff was designed to understand how the web itself, how information connects to itself to become more useful. And we have sort of not ever really cracked that as a solution. I thought your design, treatment, and use case scenario thing was very beautiful. And I think putting humor in those things is crucial, because if you want to package and sell ideas, you have to make it personal and charming. I think that's really important. The insight, especially around not just... So what it felt like to me is that you were describing multivariate taxonomy of some kind. Rather than a linear taxonomy, you could apply tags to files that describe context in some aspects. I thought particularly not just context, but proximity is very important. I've been thinking a lot about this recently, that maybe where you are and what you're doing is less important than when and who you're doing it with and what things you are near. A lot of location-based marketing and thoughts that come out of these kinds of devices that know where and when they are lead you to sort of going, I'm here, therefore this, where it should be sort of saying, I'm here and it's near this and therefore this. I guess the only build I would have considered, and you touched on it at the end, I thought was interesting, is the predictive capabilities of what you're describing. To me, the searching problem isn't the biggest problem we all face. It is hugely challenging, and I spent a lot of my life looking for documents I wrote several years ago, thinking, I remember I've written this already, and I don't have to, and I'll spend all the time I could have spent rewriting it, looking for it through endless hard drives, and it's super annoying. But at an enterprise level, that individual problem, it's much more like, I don't even know that document exists, and there's no way anyone knows that document exists, because there's no one who's seen all the documents in a big enterprise class organization. But your system theoretically could create associations that are non-conscious, and that I think would be the huge strength of its developed forward, which would be this data, this file, is very similar in some aspects via correlation or inference or something to this other set of data, this other set of files that exist in our office in Australia, and you'd never know that. But in some way, the computer, by tagging all the things that you were describing, could. And I think that would be an interesting way to develop it forward, but you touch on it. I think maybe you just could build that piece.
Am I on? Can you hear me? Okay. Well, just to follow on that, I mean, why a file? So first of all, the production values were just extraordinary, and there was so much incredible talent just in creating that presentation. Both the design and the narrative, truly extraordinary. I was really impressed. And there was a lot of promise in the research and the presentation. I was encouraged to be a harsh critic, if that's okay. But I got disappointed, however, when the word file came up. I was kind of crestfallen, actually. I just felt like, oh, you've completely adopted the desktop metaphor by using the idea of a file. And actually, I mean, that it's really, humans are, the desktop metaphor is a metaphor, after all, for just what we do and what we experience and create. And there have been other examples like Sugar, the One Laptop for Child interface, where we use the idea of activities. I mean, there's project activity. So that was kind of the hinge for me. And I felt, and also there were a few cues, like seeing the JPG, JPEG suffix and AI. Like if you could abstract the problem even more, so that again, there's, you were dealing with the sort of context management retrieval problem, as well as, I was hoping you were going in the direction of just both abstracting and sort of re-embodying the problem of creating an interface and experience about what we do, which is really about creating things and activities, and it's also so communal now. So the file seems dead as the desktop metaphor. So that's where you kind of lost me. Again, the promise was so there, which is again such a huge part of the problem, and I think you have all of the potential in terms of how you produced it and your thinking, but it lacked for me on the focus on files, and it really went back and even though the interface was beautiful, just even the use of the icons, there's a lot more thinking there and a lot more potential that could be done.
Yeah, there is.
So really quickly, so reinforce the presentation, and it was just beautifully. It's great storytelling, and absolutely that's critical to be able to get your ideas going forward. So I just had a quick question, because this phenomenon happens when you reduce complexity and solve this problem here. You don't necessarily reduce complexity. You might just transfer it to some other place, and so I just want to touch on that. As we go forward, as you suggested at the end, that you add more tags through new sensors and other things, that you can add more and more tags to each object entity that's part of the network. I'm avoiding the F word. I'm sorry. and the
Four-letter word.
and the question is this: is that you kept going back to these connected networks of the entities that in a graph sort of theoretical sense, and the problem is the more tags you have, the less obvious any particular structure of that graph is. And so what I want to ask you is, what are your thoughts that as you add more attributes to each entity, how do we deal with the complexity of then of sorting the graphs that you get, what was your premise behind this, your intellectual premise of the priming, so that I get the primary, and what is primary, what is secondary, what's tertiary when I've got 100 attributes, and therefore, it becomes NP complete. So
I certainly think that by having more data points to choose from, statistical algorithms can sort through that a lot more efficiently, and especially there's all kinds of statisticians in all kinds of different fields who are really looking at a lot of similar problems that are all about signal to noise. And there's algorithms that get applied genetically that could probably apply in this case, where it really pulls back all of the background information and just kind of looks for the outliers.
Yeah, and I think to answer the file issue, I think our main interest was actually to get at not the file stuff, but all the other data that we don't currently have access to, that we create all the other activity that we have. And in fact, I think that's partially a remnant of when we were presenting this to students, where we were afraid of getting a little too abstract. And also, the vocabulary doesn't entirely exist. But I think one of the main things we were trying to do, and I've sort of lost my train of thought here,
so I can sort of pick up maybe in the
yeah, pick up and see if it comes back to me.
So the use of that vernacular was actually kind of an ongoing debate among us, and a heated one at times. And I think the thinking was that we wanted to design something that talked to people today, that seemed like we could do it tomorrow or today, but that is extensible in the near and extended future, I guess. And then, Bill, to your question, I wonder, are you talking about sort of the back end, the algorithm, so designers creating more work for maybe a lot of people in this room?
Yeah, there's ultimately the human has to manage the complexity, and it's just a question of, in some sense, we've just moved where the complexity lies, and it could well be, you're right, some Bayesian techniques or this could be used to help here. Yeah. But here's I think what would be, if I can quickly, sorry to get your thoughts on this from by way of, advice or whatever. Whenever it's like the Yogi Bear statement: if you've come to a fork in the road, take it. If you have this debate, should we do it this way in terms of the future, the target scenario down the road where we don't have files, we don't have JPEGs, and it's this whole new thing, but it's going to be so different from where we are now, nobody's going to understand what the heck we're talking about, versus put it in today's context and today's language, but then to say, hey, you're thinking too short term. It's how do you do one, but then step back and say, and by the way, now you've got this, here's where it goes. And then you sort of, you just get rid of that red herring, a potential red herring issue, because it says we've thought about here, and always the question with design is, it's not enough to have a great vision, it's how do I get there from here? That's the difference between just sort of, okay, fantasy versus pragmatic industrial design or interaction design. But and that's the one part you could have easily sidestepped. But that's not a criticism. So we all make it's learning, right? And it's a great job. And you clearly have the skills to do it, and you clearly have the imagination. And everything in your presentation says that.
I'm just to cap on that, I totally agree. I see lots and lots of presentations. It's kind of what I do for a living. Most of them aren't that good, and we do it for a living. So that's promising, isn't it? In terms of the file and the future thing, I think you're totally. We kind of, because it's called Future World, and because we're kind of in this context, and you kind of don't have the constraints of reality, you want them to push it really far. But I like the fact, to a degree, you looked at a real-world problem and tried to solve it and then extend it. I just think you could have extended it further. With the complexity thing, I mean, this is a point of discussion. I don't know if there's an answer, and Bayesian inference might be a mathematical solution to that complexity set, but it occurs to me that the way our brains work isn't with Bayesian algorithm, but with just reinforcement of association. So a non-technical transposition of that solution would be like, well, if you look at how everyone uses these associations over a large enough set of people, and let everybody reinforce them as they use them, then over time, our use of the system would make it inherently smarter and smarter just by virtue of how we use it, right? So you wouldn't need to crunch it so much, you just need to watch it. And the watching would make it better and stuff, which might be a way to think about it, I don't know. But
yeah, I think that's what I was sort of trying to get at, which is that in some ways I think we see this as a way to communicate and get more feedback from users, and that users might actually, just like we adapted to the desktop system, adapt to this system too. But we might be able to see, well, what are the things that actually really differentiate files for us? And then how do we remember those things or help the computer to make sure that it's noting those things? And that, that helps the user, and it helps, us as professionals to create the products that are, really going to help.
So fantastic. So we have to move on to the next presenters, but thank you for a wonderful presentation.
Good afternoon. I'm Gillian Crampton-Smith, and this is Philip Tabor, and we teach in Venice at the Iuav University of Design. Being in Venice brings into high relief the challenge that all interaction designers faced, which is how can you reconcile high technology with cultural tradition? And that's why we find it extremely exciting to teach here in Venice. Most of the students that we teach have backgrounds in design, but we also have other kinds of disciplines as well, like computer science, literature, not a huge range, but enough to make an interesting mix. Most of them are Italian, but we also have people from other countries as well, particularly an interesting connection that is supported by the Italian government with China. We run 2 studio courses, one in mobile applications and the second in physical computing, which is where this challenge was located. Each course is 12 weeks. And in addition to this, there are supporting lecture courses from computer scientists in electronics and web technologies. So we hope that our students will manage to enlarge the definition of interaction design. And we concentrate particularly on these kinds of values, which we find especially in Italy. For the brief, we restricted it to the family. And we wanted people to also not use screens, not use keyboards, but to stick with much more non-verbal communication. In the initial phase, it was done as a whole group, in mixed teams at random. And the idea of this was to build a resource that the whole group could use. And of course, as all interaction designers know, professional interaction designers know, when you talk to people, and in this case families, you can get at what really people care about. And it's only by doing this that people, that we will make applications, devices that are really successful, we believe. The teams that were doing the design after the research phase were self-selected. And we asked them to come up with a series of alternatives and then to focus on one which would finally be prototyped. And then at the last, there's a charrette, an amazingly intense 2 weeks with quite a lot of technical help, where people make a prototype of their design. And in many cases, it's the first time they've ever built anything in electronics. And so if you want to find out more about the process, here's our website, interaction-venice.com.
So here are the 9 projects done by the 9 3-person teams. Doodle, a pair of interconnected sketchbooks which draw together a divorced parent and a separated child. Flight, when members of a dispersed family think of each other, a small spirit of togetherness hovers above the flight device.
And it really hovered.
Heartstrings, when 2 people, siblings maybe, or lovers or couples, are apart, and one feels fear or stress, the other feels that fear and distress by their neck being grabbed. Hellraiser quells the destructive anger of a sibling. Kaleidos, a grandparent and a grandchild discover and use to communicate 2 ancient magical globes. Lullaby, for separated families, which gives a luminous bedtime ritual. Mood swing, 2 separated members of a family communicate with each other through messages from the moon. Pebbles, physical emoticons. And finally, our nominated project, Volia. So please give a warm welcome, please, to Valeria, Alice, and Amanda.
Hi, my name is Valeria. I'm Amanda. I'm Alicia. Our project is called Voglia, an Italian word which means desire, but also birthmark. We wanted to marry technology with passion. Voglia, it's a system studied for couples. It consists of 2 pieces of jewelry equipped with the camera and little touchscreen, which communicate each other. It allows 2 partners to send video streaming of little details of their body. It's a new kind of erotic experience. During the first step of our work, we divided each other in 9 groups of 3 people. Each team interviewed different kind of people and family. The aim of this phase was discovering behavior and customs of families which used to live separated for a while. We identified a family. Here we have Monica and Enrico. They are married. They have 2 little children, and sometimes they live separated for a while. From all of the interviews and user research, we understood couples miss the intimacy of daily life during partner's absence. So in the end, we decided to concentrate our interesting and work on erotic life aspects. We chose a jewelry because it's an object, a precious object, close to the body and in contact with skin. Sometimes we hide our jewelry because it's something which belongs to memories and affections, and sometimes it happens we just want to wear the intimate and private aspect of our jewelry, because the jewelry is a sentimental value. So for our project, we wanted an object not contaminated by other functions, but just dedicated for the couples and this activity. We designed a portable and wearable device because it may be used during partner's absence. You can use it at home, but in public place as well. It would be spicier.
So we designed Voglia as a luxury jewelry, and we think it has to be sold in pair. So, like the selling of wedding rings. About future possibility, it could have different shapes and styles, so people could feel it more personal. Our jewelry took inspiration from crystal and precious stones that have a natural beauty and are strong enough to protect Voglia's erotic secret. And we did a cover with two sides, one transparent side and a metallic side, to convey a sense of both mystery and security. In particular, the woman's side is we designed a unisex jewelry. And the woman's side is made of metacrylate, which is transparent and has the property to capture and reflect light. While the men's side is made in metal, and the screen, which is hidden by two sliding flaps, seem a little stone, like the camera, which is on the other side.
So to create a real erotic experience, we based our interaction on loving gesture. For example, to swap the communication, partners have to raise the device near their lips and simulating a real kiss. With a movement on the body, we want to give a sensation of a caress, but made with the partner's eyes. And in the end, blowing is a way to whisper a goodbye. We have a video to describe the interaction and the way to use.
Hi, you are wearing a Voglia locket. If you are thinking of your partner, open it now. This animation is telling you to wait for a response. Your Voglia is vibrating. Your partner is calling you. Accept his request by opening your locket. There, your partner has accepted. The camera is running. Play with it. Linger over little details. Look into the screen to see your partner's body. Want to look at video from your partner? Please kiss the screen to change the activity. Hear that sound? Your partner is asking you to swap roles. If you want to, please kiss the screen. Hear that sound? Your partner has accepted. The camera is running. To stop the game, blow on the locket. Feel that vibration. Your partner wants to close the communication. Now you can close your voglia and wear it again. See you later.
Okay, so we explained the social inspiration of our project, but we were also inspired by technology. MemoFrigo is an example of a product which is already on the market and is affordable. It has a little camera and a screen that allows you to record short video messages. It was interesting to analyze this device because we could understand which kind of components we needed. So we did some sketches and paper models to calculate the least pendant dimension.
Okay, so in each device there are one camera and one touchscreen to record and to watch videos. And the touchscreen with a microphone are input components which allow user to interact with objects and to communicate with other users. In the end, we have a rumble and a speaker as a feedback. Two devices are connected by internet combined with a Bluetooth on a smartphone. We made a prototype to simulate the video experience and to test the quality of the video. And the low resolution is an advantage for our project because it leaves more to the imagination. Here there is an image to describe our prototype. So we divided the device in two pieces, one for recording and one for watching videos. And in one there is a camera, you can see it in the picture in the middle on the left, and the one is with a screen in the picture below. We used two Arduino codes, one for each device, and a unique processing code manages the communication between them. So in the end, we can say that we use ag technology to create a device usable with a natural gesture and centered on a relationship between people.
Finally, we want to show you a video which can give you the flavor of our project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll try. Jump in. Well, brilliant. That was lovely. Very well done. I thought, consciously or not, the design aesthetic and sort of looking a lot like a Vogue magazine type thing with some Calvin Klein advertising in there at the end was totally appropriate for what you're trying to do. That was cool. I think, again, the insight is really strong that our lives are now fractured. In fact, I'm here today and not in New York, and my girlfriend is leaving for a business trip the same minute that I get back, and I won't see her for another week or something. So I totally understand the thing. I had a couple of questions, I guess, or thoughts or something. I don't know if they're good. But one, are you guys familiar at all with the hug shirt? Have you seen the hug shirt that an Italian design studio concepted a while ago? It's basically a shirt that you wear, and your lover wears a shirt too. And whenever you hug yourself, they feel the pressure on them across distances. It reminds me of that only because it feels like one of the challenges of replicating intimacy across distance is not confused with Huggies, thank you though, is its ambient nature. There's kind of an ambient nature to interacting with somebody you love that's kind of very off the cuff touching. I wasn't touching you, I was just demonstrating, sorry. But do you know what I mean? So one of the challenges with phone calls or Skyping someone or is having to schedule those interactions. And once you schedule it, it becomes kind of weird in some ways. You know, I wonder if you thought about that, kind of having it so it wasn't something you answered, but just something that buzzed and reminded you that someone was there, you know?
Yeah. But in the beginning, we talked about this. In the end, we decided, because our experience is more about not recreate an existing erotic experience, right, but have another new. Because normally we can see the body of our partner in a totally dimension. Sure. So this is a way to trying to recognize little details, the body of the other in a new way to see the other, in a really intimate way.
No, that makes sense. And I think you sort of get close to but don't quite broach the teledildonics kind of functionality of your tool, which is kind of more the reserve of, let's say, not erotica, but the sex industry, I guess, where the vibrating functions and so forth. I guess the other thing that just occurred to me, because you describe it as a smartphone peripheral, so you need a smartphone and you'd need a Bluetooth connection to your device to sort of use the 3G or 4G network. Did you consider concepting it as an application for a smartphone? Because a lot of the functionality you're describing, the audio, the kiss, the caress, the camera, you could probably replicate now with some higher-end smartphones. I don't know if that's something you thought about, or...
Yeah, but for our project, we wanted really a specific object for this function, because a phone is something I can use for work, for friends, and I don't want my mom call me when...
That's a very good point. Yeah, no, fair enough.
That's why we decided for a jewelry.
Absolutely, that makes total sense.
Well, I love the project, and it fulfills every promise of an Italian project for me. Bellissimo. And really wonderful and innovative. And first I wanted to commend Gillian and, I'm sorry, her
and Phil Tabor.
Oh, Philip. I just think that I thought all 9 projects seemed really exciting and innovative, and I think that the way the assignment was set up, it was a brilliant setup for. Whoops, that was my chair. It was a brilliant setup for innovation, and I love this. And you took the challenge in such a beautiful way. I've always thought that real innovation happens with new protocols, new kinds of communication protocols. And what's exciting for me about where we are, in 2011 and with technology is that I feel like every few months there's something new that gets introduced that really shifts how I communicate or experience information. And so I really think that you're onto something. I know that there are some projects that relate to this, but the idea of creating a device or protocol, an experience for this kind of distant intimacy is really brilliant, and I know that many relationships could probably benefit from this. I also love how far you took it with the various. It would have been enough probably and erotic in a sense just to sort of leave it to the imagination, but you actually went further. I like that you really explored the imagery and the kind of experience that would be shared, and and the selection of a piece of jewelry. I don't know. I think it's a really wonderful project in every way, and I really think that there is a market for such a experience or protocol, I should say.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So I'll be really quick. So I echo what's been said, but for me the thing that's really interesting is that what you've done is using like a Bluetooth headset as a point of departure, that there's a whole class of peripherals that can go to the mobile phone with their unique properties that can range from jewelry and for other functions that are suited for it, and the hardware that can be discrete and start to have the quality of jewelry that goes beyond just the inherent technology. I mean, the fact is that most mobile phones from 10 feet, you can't tell one apart from the other. They're impersonal. And so your point is really not just to your mother, but the same reason we don't all wear the same necklace or same ring. And so I'm curious, do you have any thoughts on what you would do next? Like so first of all, there's a nice case that you could extend the jewelry to have functions that the mobile phone itself doesn't have. What else would you do? I just gave you $1 million to start a company to do this jewelry. What would you do?
I'm not sure I understood right the question. Maybe,
okay, what's next in terms of if you were going to make not just one product, but actually a family of products? What?
Because I think jewelry is a very personal object. So we want to try to improve the interaction with the body, with the person, and maybe create an interaction more humans and different, and depending on the shape and also about the kind of design about jewelry, because if we just realize just one piece of this, it's very recognizable. So maybe in the future and with monetization, or maybe not, because someone like big jewels, but we can use it in a very personal way, and just we know what it is and how it works.
So we're out of time, but just first of all, just thank you. So the presentation, as you said, was the visual language was perfect for the content, and the content was pretty good. I mean, really good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Derek Riley. I'm faculty at Iuav University in the Faculty of Liberal Arts and Science. I'm going to be presenting on behalf of Jutta Treviranus, who was the instructor for the course. It was an integrated art, media, and design course at the 500 level, which meant we could have graduate students and undergraduate students participate in the class. We had students from IAMD, students from Strategic Futures and Innovation, and design and art undergraduates take part in the class. Jutta sends her regrets that she cannot come. She had fully intended to, but something came up she could not get out of. So let me just present some of the designs that did not that were fantastic, but were not chosen for today's presentation. First is biopresence. Biopresence looks at the problem of locked-in syndrome, develops a design to try to encourage communication between loved ones and those who are unable to communicate using their traditional sensory modalities. Archipelago was a design that looked at self-directed learning, a online community-based system that promoted sharing of learning resources. And Knock was a service that allowed people to notify others that they wished to talk to them on the phone or wished to have a more extended communication, very lightweight mechanism to do that. Without further ado, I'm really pleased and delighted to introduce Nermeen Mufti and Farina Shanda, who are going to present our selection, which is In Need.
Hi there, my name is Nermeen and this is Farina, and we're both graduate students at the Interdisciplinary Masters of Arts, Media and Design at OCAD-U, as Derek mentioned. In response to this year's theme, we're meant to consider a world where we have seamless connectivity, which we often take for granted. Now, we decided to interpret this theme in the light of the occurrence of natural disasters, where the reality is there often is no connectivity. So we started to question how can we utilize those devices that we're so used to using, and how reliable can they be? In other words, how do we get connected and stay connected then? In this presentation, we'll be walking you through a little bit about our background research and design process. We'll also tell you about our proposed concept and considerations and next steps.
So in light of the devastating impact of natural disasters, our initial research started with looking at current governmental organizational setups, relief organizations. We also reviewed literature in disaster sociology and combined our personal experiences of living through extensive power outages in countries like Pakistan and Syria. Now, this research made evident two kinds of systems that are currently in place. The first one opposed a call for preparedness, an ethos of thinking ahead and staying prepared, often incorporated at the governmental level. The second one opposed disaster response system, which is often deployed after the occurrence of disasters. But what about the citizens? What about the people who are victims of such disasters? What roles do they play in the equation? Now, current research and discussion in the field of disaster management talks about building resiliency in communities. In fact, in 2010, the UN launched a global campaign promoting preemptive disaster management thinking by empowering governments and local communities to work together. And contrary to established myth, which talks about elite panic, where it is believed that people become a source of danger at times of natural disasters, what struck out to us was the fact that actually people come together and help each other. And further research in disaster sociology exemplifies an organic process of community building and resource sharing that happens at such a time. And essentially, this became the premise of our design solution.
So we identified in a very early stage that what we're dealing with here is what is often referred to in design research as a wicked problem. One that could have multiple solutions that are dependent on different contexts, and therein lies the complexity of this kind of undertaking. So keeping that in mind, and after a 5-month iterative design process which involved weekly sessions of brainstorming, discussions and interviews with experts in the field, and extensive talks about interface design and usability, we arrived at our concept. So let's just jump in and tell you what InNeed is about. InNeed is a localized system that aids in natural disaster management, and it can be accessed through mobile technology. Its main objectives are to aid in natural disaster management in times of crisis by enabling resource sharing in neighborhood. It also encourages the sharing of specific information to foster this neighborhood collaboration. And finally, it provides a digital repository of survival information. Now, InNeed has 3 main features. The first feature, which is a neighborhood profile directory, whereby a member's profile could include something like basic information like a name, what neighborhood a member belongs to, address, and most importantly, what resources one could anticipate to potentially share and provide at a time of crisis. For example, if I have an extra room, I can provide shelter or a car, and so on. The second feature is the survival toolkit, which is essentially a list of how-tos of useful information that could be very relevant at a time of crisis. And lastly, a neighborhood message board that enables members to send and receive messages to one another. Now let's look at how a system like InNeed actually works. The system, which comprises of a network-based base station, which is essentially a generator, a router, and a connecting device such as a laptop, would be pre-implemented on a neighborhood level in various locations such as hospitals, office buildings, and community centers. and the mobile application would be pre-downloaded on members' cell phone devices. Now, when a disaster occurs, InNeed really leverages this brief window of opportunity where the network might still be intact. At this point, the system activates itself automatically in a sense that qualified personnel from InNeed, the organization, who have been already working in close collaboration with current emergency setups, basically determine what information needs to be released to the public and at what point at the occurrence of disaster. So when it activates, it actually unlocks neighborhood profile directory. And we say unlock because this information that's been pre-provided prior to the disaster is normally private. However, at a time when the emergency occurs, this information becomes relevant or the situation changes. Next, it displays the members' last seen locations. And we realize that this might change quickly at such a situation. However, we believe if we can provide a screenshot of the current situation and the members and where they're located, that would be key. And lastly, it displays the base station locations.
Now, with the unpredictability of natural disasters, what is important to mention here is that important to emphasize here is the fact that we envision a system like InNeed to really depend on the type of disaster that occurs and the duration of the disaster. And so, for example, it would be really beneficial in an initial response system. As an initial response system, so for example, the snapshot of a community becomes really valuable information at such a time. But it could also be really useful at a time when there's extended periods of no connectivity, such as a power outage or an earthquake where the infrastructure has collapsed. So let's jump right into a scenario where we're going to show the functionality of a system like InNeed. So we have John here, who works in neighborhood X, and then we have Mike, who works in neighborhood Y. Now, an earthquake strikes. At this point, the base stations, which are pre-located in the neighborhoods, start to get up and running once people get over the first initial shocks of the earthquake. Then the system sends a key code to its members, which unlocks the profile directory and the message board. At this point, it also sends a message to its members telling them which neighborhood they are connected to. But what is important to remember here is that this is contingent upon the fact that there's still network connectivity. But the reality in disaster situations is that you lose connectivity very quickly. And so what happens is our friend John is anxious to go back to his family, but has no way to connect to the system anymore. So then he looks at his phone application and can access the base station map to find where the nearest base station is located in the neighborhood. Finding one in the nearby shopping center, he heads there immediately and is able to connect to the base station. Once connected, he can post a message on the message board, which with a message something like looking for a ride in the direction of his house.
Now, after posting the message, John, now worried and tired and frantic, he decides to take a walk on the streets to try to see if there's any alternative way to go back home. He starts to get a little short-breathed and not sure what to do. He accesses the survival toolkit to see if there's anything there that could help him. And under the medical aid category, there he finds a few pointers on what to do when you have difficulty in breathing. Now, it's important to remember here that John was able to access this information when he had no connectivity and was out of network coverage. By now, John has reached neighborhood Y. And the messages that were posted on neighborhood X's message board have traveled with him to neighborhood Y, essentially showing how InNeed leverages this natural movement of people during such situations, and that data can be transferred through sneakernet connectivity. Mike, who's another member in neighborhood Y, sees John's message, and because he has a car and is on his way, he decides to send John a direct message telling him to meet him at a specific time and place. John gets the message, and finally they are connected to one another.
Now, 3 days later, there's still no connectivity in certain neighborhoods. So we have Patrick, who is located in neighborhood M and is a chef. Now he realizes that he has food and can open up a soup kitchen for that afternoon. So what he does is he can either post a message on the message board saying something like serving food today from 2 to 4 p.m., or he can update his profile directory by adding or updating his resources to a food supplier. Mary, who is with her daughter stranded and looking for food, can access Patrick's information by either looking through the message board or by searching through the food supply category in the profile directory. There, she sees Patrick's message listed, can access his profile, find his address, and head over in that direction. So essentially, these scenarios show the functionality of how InNeed could be used. And looking forward, the importance of a preemptive disaster management system becomes clear. And we truly anticipate that multiple stakeholders would be interested in a product like InNeed, whose development and commercial viability is in tandem with the corporate social responsibility programs of companies which are committed to addressing today's global challenges. And while InNeed is developed and enables self-organization within communities, we anticipate and envision it to run under an independently organized company, which would work in close collaboration with relief organizations, government agencies, and local communities.
Now, there has been a couple of major areas of consideration during our design process. The first thing is that we anticipated a system like InNeed to function at a time of little connectivity or almost no connectivity, which is often the situation in a disaster. However, after many conversations with experts in the field and many iterations of the design, we realized that InNeed could very much exist alongside current emergency setups. The question arises is how would a system like InNeed be utilized on a daily basis? And the other major consideration is this notion of privacy and the ownership of information, which is an area that we realize is still under evaluation. As an immediate next step, we would do extensive ethnographic studies on how do people feel about opting in such information depending on cultures, regions, and communities, and so on.
So we really consider InNeed to be a way of thinking. Through timely innovation, it aims to build a preemptive system that aids in natural disaster management through community-led initiatives. Conceptualized as a bottom-up, collaborative approach, it finds its niche within the ethos of self-organization and resilience by bridging the gap between pre-crisis and post-crisis operations. At the end of this journey, we truly believe that InNeed has a real need in fostering preemptive thinking at the grassroots level. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, go for it. Right.
Crikey, well that was wonderful. Thank you very much. It's kind of interesting to leap from a personal intimacy device to a kind of global level disaster sort of community solution, isn't it? In the same brief, which is kind of cool. I guess there's a few things that sprung to mind. I thought the aesthetic and the way you thought through the implementation of the system was beautiful. There were some bits that my brain kind of hung on, like what appeared to be, and maybe I'm wrong in this, but what appeared to be the pre-implementation piece, which required you to set up kind of a local alternative wireless network by region, which infrastructure-wise seems quite like a big task to sort of self-organize. I mean, I'm sure you considered this, but like things like even sharing Wi-Fi is quite complicated. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But there are various sort of reasons for the corporate part of that. But did you think that kind of thing through in terms of disasters? People don't often plan them well in advance.
And actually, that's precisely it. We've had extensive conversations about sort of the larger-than-lifeness of this kind of approach, and that we arrived at for something like this to be implemented, it would have to live alongside current setups and work with them. And I mean, those kind of preparedness ethos do exist, and because of the reoccurrence of natural disaster, should be fostered even more, and there's a lot of room for improvement. I mean, we have fire drills that happen in campuses, we have safety training and orientation and all that sort of thing. So we just kind of said, well, why don't we do this on a grander scale and include natural disasters that could, you know, take years in implementation, but we foresee this hopefully in the next, I don't know, 5 years to hopefully exist.
I mean, that does make sense, and from all the, it appears the natural disasters are becoming more common, which is a good reason to sort of begin these processes, I guess. You mentioned at the very beginning you'd looked at things like Ushahidi, which are kind of the current solution to this sort of problem. Yes. And one of the appealing things about Ushahidi is that you can set it up very, very easily, and it runs across SMS.
Yeah.
Which is, and I wonder if you thought about, are you envisaging a much higher kind of smartphone penetration in the, I mean, there obviously is going to be one, but the solution requires quite a lot of relatively, you know, advanced technology to be in the hands of most people.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And with Ushahidi, it really becomes a post-disaster response system. And one of the things that we are very interested in implementing is the ethos of thinking ahead. And just like you mentioned, the fact that natural disasters are kind of occurring even more today, it becomes very important for organizations to start investing in larger systems, which could then start dealing with these increase in the occurrence of these natural disasters.
And regarding the penetration of, let's say, 10% of the population use smartphones, there are certain apps that can run on feature phones using Java apps, and there would be different levels of sort of in need being implemented. You know, we anticipate that the sociology of a disaster really means that people move around and come together and work with one another. So even if I don't have a smartphone but my neighbor does, you know, I'll see them and we'll communicate and we'll share this kind of good. Feature phones are also a possibility and things we have thought about, but if this was to be implemented, we would have to look closely at push notification messages and
right, and I think that, and I'll just pass it on, but I think that's the final, the bit that I found very compelling, which is there's an immediate proximity-based communication problem.
Right.
Like, I want to communicate in two ways. One, with everybody that's around me within like a mile, so I can share resources, and then to some central point to communicate that fact, you know, which is, it kind of reminds me of, you know, like I think you had a line about zombie apocalypse on one of your scenario planning, which I thought was, which was great. I think that's, again, like I think humor is important with these things, particularly something this serious, because otherwise people will shut down. It's too stressful. When you see zombie apocalypse movies, don't they always have some guy on a CB radio, like a ham radio, broadcasting for like guns? And if you're out there, like in the one with Will Smith, where he's kind of a vampire thing, you know? And he goes to the highest point and just broadcasts on radio saying, if you're out there, come find me. It's the same exact need, you know?
Exactly.
Just sort of finding a new solution for, which I think was cool. But.
Exactly. I mean, if it is implemented on a city level, then we would leverage things like ham radios or, you know, audio announcement at traffic lights and all of those solutions that are already there but not being manipulated to work for us at such times.
Thank you. I'll be brief. I thought it was a fantastic presentation, beautifully articulated and rendered, and as you said, a really a way of thinking, and something that I personally haven't given much thought to on the design level. I was fascinated by the profile about your sort of key features, and imagine that. I mean, I was familiar with Twitter's role in Haiti, and there's also the role of people who are connected, getting, you know, the few messages that are coming from the disaster site. I think it'd be very interesting to imagine something at the, you know, a corporate level. I'm sure there's this planning at every large corporation, but I haven't been that familiar with it. Also the idea of some agreement, some sort of profile agreement, agreeing to open it up. Again, fascinating. I hadn't thought about that before. Just like we have, you know, organ donor cards on their driver's license. Anyway, so I would just say thank you, and I hope that you continue to work on this project and realize it as its own product, but also as part of the current infrastructure. Thanks.
So I actually don't have a lot to add, because what I really wanted to say was you actually addressed my biggest nightmare, which was the zombie attack. So, but the one thing I'd say is that if I was going to make a suggestion, it would be there's a part of this that came out in the answers, in the question answers, but not in the main talk, which is essentially the notion of graceful degradation, that you don't have to hit everybody as long as you can get that one person who is on the zombie with a ham radio or the radio. And also the integration and the need to integrate other technologies like ham radios or CB radios and so on.
Yes, that's true.
Have you thought further about that? Because you clearly have thought about it.
We've thought about it. We figured for the scope of this the project and this theme, we'd focus on our immediate product, but that was definitely something that was going, and definitely going to come into play.
Yeah, and I think like at times when, for example, connectivity dies and, you know, if your base station, the one that has been implemented, collapses, which is a reality in disaster situations, you have these other techniques of setting up a network base station, and they come in handy. And I get part of, I think, the ethos of being prepared is to incorporate those on a mainstream level in some way, so that if my base station collapsed, how can I start using this instead? Or
yeah, and the ham radio was a good example where they have there's a strong precedent for this because it's building on something that has existed.
Yeah.
So
I know in Egypt it was used during the revolution.
Yeah.
It was very helpful.
So just thanks a million. It was just really well done.
Thanks.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
It's on? Hi. I'm Nancy Heckinger, and I teach at the Interactive Telecommunications program at NYU that we call it ITP. And, hold on. I want to tell you a little bit about ITP. Only, it's not going. Sorry, but it's not. Oh, there we go. Okay. So ITP is a place that's pretty hard to define. It is and is not a design school. It is and is not a technology school or an art school. In a sense, I think what you could say about ITP, it's a 2-year graduate program. It was founded by Red Burns, who I think you can see there in the center, and I think a lot of you may know her. It was founded in 1979. And I think that the character is best defined by her commitment to an educational philosophy that promoted collaboration and risk-taking and essentially imagination. It's still sort of undefinable, but what I think what we do best is we explore the imaginative uses of existing technologies, in a way that could bring, augment human intelligence or make the world a better place or bring delight into people's lives. In terms of numbers, we're about 250 people in the graduate program, about, oh, good, I'm getting a replacement, okay. It's half and half, 50% men, 50% women. More than a third of our students are non-native speakers, come from international students. And also, we have this interesting mix where I would say about 40% of our students come from the science geeky world, and about 40% come from the arty world, and then there's some outliers like doctors and lawyers. We stir them all up together, and so it's a very diverse group of people that are imagining together. So this is the most wonderful class in the world. This was the whole class of Design Expo, 17 amazing students who are whip smart, really clever, generous with their help to each other, very positive, and I think that the group of them could make anything and change the world. But let me tell you how Design Expo fits at ITP. We're a place that is sort of aggressively non-competitive in a lot of ways. So this is our only class that has competition in it. It's the only one where we think directly about business, and so this is kind of our startup and entrepreneur class. It has a business focus, product design. They learn to pitch an idea, and it's the one where they have to think about customers in the real world. So this year, and this is, I think we've been doing this since the beginning of Design Expo here, is every year we look at what the topic is and see how it maps in, how we have to change it a bit to map onto our educational goals. And so this year there are 4 topics, the 4 ways we did it. One is we said it had to be doable. In other words, because we're thinking of this as kind of, we want this project not to be an enterprise solution that these 4 people that you're going to see could make, or that a startup, you could really imagine a startup venture of out of graduate school. We also try to get them to think outside their very own demographic. So it's not just for, hipster technocrats to do. And the other thing is, they're all connected. And really, the zeitgeist right now at ITP, and I don't know how it is for everybody, is they're no longer interested in having 9,000 friends and sitting at home and being all the time on the computer. So we want to use this concept of get connected and stay connected to disconnect and do more face-to-face interactions and get out into the real world. And then the final thing we put it on it is think of everyday life in New York City. How can we improve it, make it better, or more fun? Oh, and the other thing I should say is how we organize the class. We've got I have 17 students. We did a lot of whole class work, thinking of various topics, broke into different groups to explore different research topics, then broke in again to study different demographics. Then I assigned them into their final team. Then they had 9 or 10 weeks to do the final project, and then we bring outside judges to make the determination, because it would be really hard for all of us to make that determination. And so what I brought in is 5 people from the outside. One is an investor and startup advisor, and also a blogger about New York City. The founder of Brownstoner, which is a very popular blog in New York, which has become a real community builder in Brooklyn, and also the Brooklyn Flea, which is a flea market. A New York City Parks administrator, a former executive in a TV production company, is also a founder of a startup incubator, and a journalist who writes about the neighborhoods of New York City. We also had a couple of non-voting judges, and I would just like to take this opportunity. Shelley Evanson was our liaison, and she was really just wonderful and came several times and was very helpful. And of course, Curtis came our last day, and he's just responsible for putting this whole event together, and it means so much to our students. And thank you, Microsoft, and Curtis, and Mariah, and Mike. So what criteria do our judges have? Well, when Microsoft gives us the challenge, they tell the students, here are the things we want you to consider, here are the qualities we're looking for. So I throw this into a matrix, and our judges rate each one of these qualities on a scale of 1 to 5, and then essentially we just add them up, and that's the winner. So let me tell you who are the projects that are not here. The first one is called Urban Insider. Now, Urban Insider is a mobile app, and it takes advantage of the fact that there probably are more newcomers and more know-it-alls in New York City probably than anywhere in the world. So in this application, what they can do is give the know-it-alls a chance to show off what they know, but also share the secrets with the newcomers, so helping them go from naive to native. Bonfire. Bonfire is kind of like a zip kitchen for kitchens. New Yorkers live in small apartments with teensy-tiny kitchens, and it's fine. We eat out a lot, and we can have anything delivered, but sometimes you want to actually cook a meal with your friends. And so what Bonfire is you go to a website, and on the website you can rent kitchen space and dining space. You could even have food delivered. You can bring your own food, or you can have food delivered from one of the Fresh Direct or whatnot. You can clean up after yourself, or you can order somebody to clean for you. I'd like to have this at home, actually. So it's a wonderful way to connect with friends, and also it could be used as team building in the corporate world. Better than ropes. MemoLink. So MemoLink is a mobile app that's for use by people with mild cognitive impairment through early stage Alzheimer's. Let me talk about that. At the moment, there are 5 million people in the United States with Alzheimer's. There's an equal number, if not more, with something called mild cognitive impairment, which can often, is on the path to early stage and then late stage Alzheimer's. These people can still do a lot of things, and the idea here was they made a mobile app that would allow people with MCI through early stage Alzheimer's to prolong how independent they can be and connected to their friends to people who have the same illness. This team worked very closely through the Alzheimer's Association with people with MCI, and so it was designed with the people who really need it and with their input. It was a really wonderful experience in that user. And it was kind of challenging, quite a discipline to take a smartphone essentially and try to make it dumb. But the winner is Walk It. Now, before I introduce them, I want to say this is the first time ever that it was actually a unanimous choice among the judges for Walk It, and they said that they felt this was a new generation of app, that it went beyond pure functionality or even kind of the services where you can find out where to eat. It had personality and personalization, and everybody wanted to use it. We have two of the people on the panel have investors they think might be interested. One wants to advertise on it, so that's friendly, good start. And I would say that the quality of the team is very similar to the product. They're very clever, they're very charming, they like urban adventures, and they also share essential qualities of entrepreneurs, which I think is really important. They shared a vision clearly from the beginning. They had a clarity of focus all the way through. They had a clear division of roles. They had the right balance of skills. They were supportive and critical of each other. They were persistent. And they're really perfectionists. They were able to resolve their conflicts and mesh their learning and working styles. So as a teacher, it was really satisfying to watch them. And I'm very proud to introduce you now to the team of Walk It, which is Doug Thistlethwaite, who's coming next? Miguel Bermudez, Jen Ho, and Ji-Yoon Moon.
Hold on one second while we just pull up this presentation. It doesn't seem to be working. Sorry. How's everybody doing today? Thank you. Oh, it's pulled up there. Okay. Well, no, I don't want to do that. I'll just, sorry, cancel it. Over here, and there we go. All right. Hey, so we're the team from ITP. My name is Doug.
I'm Miguel.
I'm Jen. Hi, Jihan.
And we're here today to talk to you about our idea, which is Walk It. Walk It is an online platform to create and share neighborhood walking maps that contain the same soul and the same personality that you would get in a hand-drawn map from a friend. We're going to show you a quick little video to show you what we're talking about.
All right, meet Ji-Yoon and Doug. Ji-Yoon is visiting Doug from out of town, and Doug is a New York City local. Ji-Yoon's already visited Doug a few times, so she's already seen the big sights. So what else is there to do? Well, Doug, he knows tons of great places, but unfortunately, he just got called into work. So what is Ji-Yoon to do without her local tour guide? Doug's got a great idea. He's gonna draw Ji-Yoon a map of all his favorite neighborhood spots. And he's done. Now Ji-Yoon's ready to embark on a little Greenwich Village adventure. First stop, Coffee Shop Orange, local favorite, and no offense, Seattle, it's not a Starbucks. Ultra hip clothing store Superdry because Doug knows exactly what Ji-Yoon's style is like. And Ji-Yoon would never have found this pretty street without the help of Doug's map. Well, it looks like Doug's off work now, and Ji-Yoon had a great day. And this is what Walk It is trying to capture. The same essence and character that you'd find in a hand-drawn map from a friend. We want to make it easy for people to create and share maps like these online. Because a city is more than its tourist attractions. It's the people in the neighborhoods and their experiences in them that make a place truly unique.
And what do you do when you visit a new area? Well, one of the first things you want to do is actually probably want to visit a mapping site. And mapping sites are great because they're really functional and you get your bearings. So some of the questions you might ask yourself is, where's the local grocery store? Where's the subway? What are my cross streets? And mapping sites will do this, but they're a little hard to personalize. Next, we have social review sites. So once you know where you are, you need to know where to go. And social review sites will provide reviews for singular places about what points of interest you might have. But the problem with this is they don't really describe a neighborhood in detail. Next, you have guidebooks. And guidebooks are great, but they're easily outdated and not usually done by locals. We like to think Walk is the best of all three of these. We're easy to personalize, we can describe neighborhoods in great detail, and we're made by locals for your friends.
People love hand-drawn maps, much like these that we sourced from the Hand-Drawn Maps Association. We love them because they're full of personality and charm, kind of like the map that Doug drew for Jian in our opening video. We did some user testing, and we asked people to share with us hand-drawn maps of their neighborhoods that they would share with, a friend who was visiting from out of town. And what we found was that people were really enthusiastic and really generous with sharing their stories. And that second to public speaking, people are terrified of their drawing abilities. So with Walk It, we wanted to focus on making it easy for people to share these experiences and stories, because that is at the essence of every hand-drawn map. And we took the look and feel of these maps in really defining the aesthetic of the Walk It website. I'm going to walk us through it. First of all, we want to select our city. And I'm going to go ahead and click on Seattle. Thanks for having us here. And from here, I can do one of two things. I can find maps and I can make maps. I'm going to take us through how to find a map. Because I've already selected Seattle, it's pulled up a map of all these Seattle neighborhoods. And before we came here, someone told us that Fremont was a really cute neighborhood to check out. So go ahead and click on that. With Fremont selected, I can now choose to select from theme of walk, such as shopping or dining, time of day I want to walk, distance, duration, and even the day of week I want to walk. And I can get maps that way. Or I can click on the Surprise Me button. And what that does is pull up one random walk for me to do. If I'm feeling adventurous, just want to get out there, I can do that. But I want some options. So I'm going to click on Get Maps. And this is my results page. And from here, I can easily peruse all the results that match my search criteria. And I can also look at the ratings and comments of people who have walked these walks in the past and see what they have to say about them before I make a decision. But it doesn't look like there's anything I'm really looking for. Hey, Doug, don't you have a friend that lives in Seattle?
I do. Actually, when we found out we were coming to Seattle for Design Expo, I called up my friend Valerie. I was like, hey, Valerie, what would you do if you were in my shoes coming to the city? And so I'll take you through how to make a map with the map she gave me. First, you would go to the Make Map section, and this would be the overview of sort of your map-making experience. At the top there, above the map, you see that you can enter your map title, and that's how your map will be known on Walk It. Below that, you can enter your neighborhood, and that will then orient the map so that you can get started right away. First thing to do would be to search for what you want to add to the map. She told me that the Sunday market in Fremont was not to be missed, so I'll search for that. And there it comes up right there. So I'll click that, and it'll add just right to the map. Next, you can annotate the point with what you want the people to see while they're there. She told me that the falafel place there is the best in the Northwest, and the couple that runs it have so many smiles. So she'll add that right there, and ready to go. It's saved. Next, because she uses Foursquare and probably has made other maps in this area, she can go to My Places and quickly add things that she would normally do while she's always in this area, because it's just already saved. Next, this is just a bunch of points on a map. So in order to create a story, she can use the pen tool to then link all the points together in the route she wants me to take. First stop is Lighthouse Roasters. The beans here are the best, and she always gets a cappuccino. Next, she'll actually go down to another coffee shop in order to get Mighty O Donut, an organic, vegan-friendly Seattle favorite. And then, on the way down, she'll stop by Deluxe Junk. This vintage store has a treasure trove that she's been adding to her clothing collection forever, so she can pick up nice things there. After that, she always swings by the statue of Lenin. This relic of the communist era is great for a photo op. Afterwards, then head down to the Fremont Market, where there's tons of great vendors, and also make sure to say hi to the couple who runs the falafel stand. After that, falafel in hand, head down to the Burt Gilman Trail, and there's a bridge there with a bench under it. You can watch the sailboats go by and enjoy your falafel. And that's her map. So after that, you can save it and preview what it would look like when people search for it on Walk It. You can check all your points there on the right and have the map that you just made. What to do next is you can publish it on Walk It so people can start using your map, or you can share it on your social networking sites with your friends, and you can also print a pocket map. And a pocket map is what Ji-yoon's going to tell us about.
Pocket map. What is pocket map? Pocket map is very cool feature of Walk It. We are using all-day technology. Sometimes we need to escape from that. So Walk It will provide people to enjoy and feel that actual paper map. This is PDF of Pocket Map, which Doc's friend already made it. All features and points are interesting of her works every day. And let's take a look at the video and see how simply it's made. Simply print and cut it and fold it, and it's ready to go. How simple it is. Sharing maps. Sharing maps is the key point of Walk It. We already share our digital map through the website. Now it's time to share your paper map with your friends. You can simply pass it to your friends, or your friends can scan this tag with their mobile phone and use your Walk It.
We have Walk It on paper. We also have Walk It on mobile. And Walk It Mobile is a great companion site to the Walk It website. And just like the Walk It website, you can use Walk It Mobile to actually look for maps, search for maps, and use it on the walk. But one great feature that we love about Walk It Mobile is that it has a bookmark feature. So if you're at a place, if you're enjoying it, you want to save for later use, you can go ahead and bookmark it there. We asked a lot of people, what would you do with Walk It? So here we have a young lady using Walk It on an apartment hunt to scope out her new neighborhood. Here's a family using Walk It on a Sunday venture in the park. Here's a tourist discovering a rare gem in a neighborhood that's not in his guidebook. Here's an older gentleman using Walk It to rediscover a neighborhood that is not in the rediscovered neighborhood he grew up in. Kids love Walk It, and you can use Walk It with your kids to actually go on scavenger hunts.
Cities are full of character and individuality. We want to connect people with places they wouldn't normally go or wouldn't even know to go. We hope that Walk It will get people outside and exploring the world around them. Thank you very much. And if you would like, you can come see us at the Demo Fest later if you want one of these Walk It maps. We've printed out a bunch for you guys, or you can go to Go Walk It, and the PDF is right there. Thanks.
Do you want to go first?
No, I'm Paula.
Okay, fine. Hello. So that was just wonderfully charming, wasn't it? I mean, the whole thing was just I mean, you are very charming people, obviously, but the way it was presented was incredibly charming, and I think that's crucial, actually, because the design layer and the sort of tone of what you put together, to me, was one of the most compelling parts of it. It kind of felt homegrown, as you were intending to, but kind of scalable, which is very tricky to pull off, in my opinion. I do increasingly think that, and this is probably appropriate considering the context, but the design is going to be the frontier of technology, if it isn't already, to be honest, because the mashing up of the APIs that you basically described probably isn't super complicated. I have no idea, but it probably isn't. And the data sets you're referring to. So that was good. I thought the idea about neighborhoods is coming through quite a lot, which is there is very specific neighborhoods. Like your neighborhood is not my neighborhood. We live in the same place, but they're different. And that to me is a super interesting idea, that everybody has their own neighborhood they can share, which is cool. And the insight is, and I used to be a planner, so insights are important to me. It's hugely important because whenever someone comes to town, and we have guests a lot because I'm English and I live in New York, my girlfriend gives them lists, and they're personalised lists. She interviews them quite sort of strategically, and she gets all their insight, and she gives them a list of things to do, so that's cool. I kind of loved the printout thing. That was super neat. Just because it feels really, I mean, I'm not sure it's that necessary, but it just felt really kind of like a good offline articulation of your idea. I particularly liked how you, in the original, you were using QR codes, and then for today you'd replace them with Microsoft tags, because that's probably quite sensible strategically. And it's a good thing to recognise that when you're in context like this, making things tailor slightly to the appropriate kind of is a good idea. I guess there's a couple of I mean, I thought, yeah, the whole thing was beautiful, and I think it probably will work. It's worth looking at some similar things, because the devil of this kind of idea is in the detail. I have worked on or pitched numerous walking tour ideas to brands like Nokia and stuff, and some of which they tried to do, like with Vine out of London, which kind of didn't really work for various reasons, or other ways of thinking about sharing and mapping these things, you know. It's worth checking out, just as a reference, if you haven't seen it, Louis Vuitton's app called Amble, which is a walking tour application that Louis Vuitton put together. Just not that I think yours is much nicer, but they have a different approach to the same problem. There's a celebrity curated walks, basically, but it tonally is very different. But it's worth looking at it and stuff. But I think that's I think it was great. So, thanks.
Yes. Message for. Okay. Yes, really beautifully done. I like the color coordinated outfits as well. I guess we're moving quickly. I like that it was. I would call it just innovative enough. I mean that in the best sense. I mean it's really leveraging. It's not technologically out there, but it is a new type of, or I don't know, creating a tool for a protocol. I would argue that hasn't been represented or provided for in terms of a tool. The one question I would have would be, and I think it was beautifully, again, presented and designed and conceived and very well branded, which I think is important for this type of consumer product. I wanted to say one last thing about, it does seem like it could leverage, I guess what Google Plus is trying to do with circles, or, you know, really understanding, and, you know, Facebook, just understanding whose walks are these, and I would want to make sure, if I went to a city, that I had access to walks that were created by my friends and or people like me.
Connect thing in there somewhere, yeah.
Yeah. So beyond just the rating system, I think you could definitely leverage networks. But again, beautifully done, and let's keep walking.
So very, very quickly, because of time, but the hardest thing with any design is to know when to stop adding features. Right? More is actually more, isn't necessarily more, right? And so I'm sure you had conversations like what not to add. So you could have had the tags on each location so you could augment it with audio. You could have integrated the GPS so you used the paper map, which is appropriate in daylight, and still have acoustic or other things coming by where you were, or you could tag it. Can you just very quickly summarize some of the things you didn't do and why? Because this shows a lot of discipline. That's what I'm really trying to say.
Well, definitely, I mean, the first thing if you speak to mobile in that, right now we have a clear separation that the mobile, you can't actually draw a map in our idea on a mobile device, because if you're trying to draw a little, it's going to hit the wrong one. It's sort of not the right place to do that. So that's why we had the bookmark function, whereas you can take your GPS location and it'll save it, and then once you get back to your home computer where you have a much bigger layout or a Cintiq or really whatever you got, you know, you can really get into sort of your mapping that way. And so it's more about enjoying the maps when you're outside, and then and sort of having time to sit down and really think about how you want to share with your friends. So that, I guess, was one of the first things we left out. Another thing we
also talked about was the idea of collaboration on maps and how that would work. That if you made a map and then I made a map, or I liked your map and I used that as kind of a source to actually use for other maps, how would we do that? And then you kind of get into trouble with like whose map and whose rights and then whose map is it and things like that. So the idea is that this project does involve a lot of collaboration, and it does afford itself that. We like to think that we'll start with this first and see where we go from there, because we would actually like to see how people would use this.
Yeah. I love the discipline, I love the branding, I love the presentation, and so just congratulations and thanks a million.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I everybody. My name is Monica Gonzalez. I'm a designer at Windows Phone. The first time I heard about Design Expo, I was a TA for Shelley Evanson in Carnegie Mellon, and now I've been on the other side. That year I got recruited, and I came here, and I've been very happy working here for the last 5 years. And this year I have the honor to introduce you to Jorge Mesa. He is from Universidad Iberoamericana.
Everyone, I am the Dean of the Design School at Ibero. Ibero was the first design school in Latin and South America. It is almost 60 years old now. We are a big school. We are almost 1,500 students undergrad and also some like 100 in grad school. Here we brought our undergrad students from a course that we have been developed for the last 4 years since we got invited for the first time to Imagine Cup, and it's an interdisciplinary course that time we were working with Andy that is here, and so you will see here a mix of industrial, graphic, interaction, and textile designers.
One thing that Jorge always does is that he gets the students to think about local problems, and then he makes them bring them here where they have to have a global relevance. So this year, all of the projects that the students were working on were about social engagement and Mexico City situations. So we're going to show you a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, first I wanted to thank all the students because they did a great job during this semester. Also Monica, she was every week with us talking through Skype and other media. And all my students are here. So it's also a good job to bring them here so they can hear the other presentations and learn from the other teams. So there were around 17 students in this class. And now we're going to talk a little bit about the projects that we developed this semester.
So Carton was an initiative for P2P or student-to-student rides. Transportation in Mexico City is not very accurate or reliable. It's also very poorly planned. So the idea here was to get students to give rides to each other in a safe environment that also helps them develop a social network in the school.
Yeah. This is the second one. It was called Quali. This project was aimed to help teenagers to have better relationships, and it was also meant to prevent psychological violence on teens' relationships. What else?
This was really cool because it was heavily influenced by a textile designer who was on the team, and her contribution was to have this fabric that would relate, like it was always capturing biometrics, and it would reflect them in a web interface, and later on students had to, like the teenagers had to understand that and deal with it. So it was kind of like a lot of self-discovery through situations being captured in the day.
Yeah. Well, this is being a project for employees, business workers.
So this was interesting because thinking about health, this project was, the main target was not people overweight or completely unhealthy. It was more about people who's in the borderline. Like, for example, myself. I take care of myself on the weekends, but during the week, I eat whatever I find, and I eat probably in front of my desk, which is not a good practice. And this was trying to help people be healthy in that environment and kind of remind them that it's good to be healthy.
Yeah, so the idea here, it was how to compete with your co-workers to have certain goals related with exercise or better food habits, or yeah, it was, you could create an avatar. It was kind of gaming platform. And well, this year we participated at Imagine Cup. It's another Microsoft initiative. It's a competition more on the technological engineering side. There are around 300,000 students participating in this contest. In Mexico, there were 220 universities participating and more than 7,000 students. It was the first time Ibero participates because this is more an engineering contest. So this was the project that we developed. It was called Brain. It's a tool for kids who have lost everything, including schools, because because they suffer from a natural disaster like hurricanes, floods, and they cannot attend schools anymore. So this is a tool where they can interact through Kinect to different apps and games, so they will continue developing their cognitive and intellectual skills. So we were competing in New York last week, and well, now we have.
Yes, so without further ado, we want to introduce you to the team that was selected this year. Their project name is called Portavox, and we're going to let them talk about it now.
Yeah, so come on, guys.
So, hi everyone. First, we want to start with a question. How many of you have been victims of a crime today? Could you please raise your hand? Only one? Well, if we were in Mexico City, the number of raised hands would be 5 times this auditorium every day.
Hi, we are from Universidad Iberoamericana, Mexico City. I am Mariana Pintado, graphic designer.
I'm Julio Palomino, interactive designer. Topo Gomez, interactive designer.
I'm Fer Diaz, graphic designer, and we're presenting Portavox. This is the situation that we're living in Mexico City. 7 out of 10 Mexican citizens are victims of crime, but only 1 reports it. 40% of the people who don't think it's useless, and 50% don't know how the process works. People say that it's a waste of time, and that the government won't do anything if they do it. They are also scared, and constantly hear and see really violent news. They don't know that crime reporting has a purpose. First, it's the beginning of the legal process. If you don't report, the criminals are not prosecuted. The stolen objects are used for other criminal purposes, and the fake statistics from the government are reported. All of this results in a level of 98.3% of impunity in Mexico. And our solution is Portavox.
Portavox is a system that creates a community reporting tool that facilitates real-time crime reporting and that tracks and shares that information to help prevent and inform people about different crimes. Our belief is that by making the means of reporting easy, fast, and safe, it can increase the number of official crime reports and help improve the security in Mexico. This is how our project responds to the topic, Get Connected, Stay Connected. Portavox has 3 main actors: users, collaborators, and the government. Our users are people 18 years and older, both male and female, that have been victims of a crime. Our collaborators are the Latin American Association of Lawyers, volunteers, and NGOs, and the government that will receive the official crime reports.
Now, let's take a look at how Portavox works. If a person is victim of a crime, he can report it using different existing technologies: ATMs, phone, smartphones, online, or through the city treasury kiosk. Through an easy and friendly interface, he uploads the facts and receives free legal assistance. Portavox then transfers this crime report to the district attorney. The user has the option to sign in and create a code that will allow him to erase the contents of his stolen devices or to freeze his credit cards. A Portavox lawyer will keep in touch with the victim, telling him what happened with his report and providing help if needed. All the gathered data would be used on an interactive crime map that will allow the citizens to be informed of the crimes committed per area. Through the app, the user has the option to make an instant report as a victim or witness, and the system will send an alert to all the Portavox users nearby. All of this, with a communication campaign, will help the people gain a voice and will give the government a necessary tool to fight crime.
We followed an iterative design process based on 6 main phases: research, understanding, ideating, prototyping, testing, and validating by making a user's feedback to adjust the project when needed. Now let's take a deeper look to the project through a scenario. This is Pedro. He lives in Mexico City, where a communication campaign has been showing the importance of crime report and a new way to do it called Portavox. He went to work daily, but one day, on a streetlight, a guy comes over and robs him. He was very scared at the moment, but then he remembered the Portavox campaign, so he went to the nearest kiosk to enter his report. He entered his personal data, the facts, and describes the crime. Then he prints his report and goes home. After that, a port-a-box lawyer contacts him to help him through the process, telling him his rights as a citizen, what to do, and later on, what happened with his report. So he signs in to the port-a-box website and downloads the application. Another day, he sees Anna being robbed on the same streetlight, so he sends an alert and helps her make her report through his smartphone. Several reports are shown on this same spot, so the port-a-box shows them on their map, and the authorities know it needs attention, so they send a policeman to help improve the security on the area.
Port-a-box has 3 main benefits. First, it provides a free, easy, fast, and safe tool to report a crime. Second, it gives its users free legal assistance and keeps them connected to the process. And finally, it allows the government to gather the necessary data in order to be able to generate effective strategies to fight crime. We tested our prototype with our users, and this is what they told us.
Se me hace un proyecto súper interesantísimo, algo que realmente sí valdría la pena.
Bien, lo que pasa es que si se vuelve oficial, lo que me da miedo es que que quede como todo lo que pasa en el gobierno, que quede a medias, ¿no?
No, que es una maravilla. Es una maravilla porque ya da mucho trabajo ir. De acá que te atienden, pierdes mucho tiempo y luego no tienes la seguridad de que realmente te van a hacer caso.
Our next steps will be to present this project to the different NGOs that helped us in the process, such as Causa en Común, Iniciativa México, and México SOS. We assigned it to Iniciativa México, which is a contest that promotes and disseminates different projects of Mexicans that want a more just and prosperous country, and later on to release our beta system.
Nowadays, the Mexican government is finally turning into the citizens looking for ideas and initiatives that could make a difference in the violence matter. Port-a-box offers them a new way of crime report that will incentive the citizens' participation by making it easy, fast, and safe. Using existing technologies, it will allow the government to get official reports. And also, due to the current fight against crime and the people's urgent need for a feeling of trust, it's the perfect historic moment for Port-a-box to exist.
We want all Mexican citizens to help us bring down the wall of crime that covers Mexico's beauty.
We compiled all our research in a book that we want to give a copy to each one of the critiques. There, you can find all the information we gathered through interviews to experts, to anti-crime activists and users, observation, and other data, as well as our design process, first prototypes, and other information. If anyone else wants to take a look at this, please find us after the presentation or log in to www.portabox.mx. Thank you.
Right. Wow. I'm supposed to be really brief, so I'll try and keep my wows short. But that was incredible. That was remarkably well realised. There's a clear and urgent need. I think dealing with governments in any capacity seems to be oddly frustrating and complex. And fixing that in a way that makes people feel safe and convenient seems very useful. I thought the way you put together the design and the architecture of your presentation was wonderful. I thought the different styles you used to realise different pieces were great. And I really wasn't expecting a book of the research. That's remarkable. That's really, and it looks like it's a real book with stuff in it and everything. It was really very interesting, I thought. And it's quite a serious problem, but you did it kind of with great pace and brought it to life in a really beautiful way. So thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I echo that. Wow. Remarkable presentation. Surprising visuals. I mean, really extraordinary. Wonderful. Are you familiar with, there's a project called Crime Spotting that was done by Stamen Design in San Francisco, a beautiful visualization of crime data. I think it started with, it's in the Bay Area, but it started with crime data from Oakland police reports. And it just occurs to me that what's interesting is and this could be a big feature of your work, but in their case, their audience was just people wanting to see where crimes are happening geographically. And so you would have that data, and I think that interface would also be of huge benefit for sort of neighborhood, crime watching. So it was interesting because Stamon's approach was basically to take data that is apparently reported quite well by the Oakland police or the Bay Area police, and sharing it with the community so they could watch in their own neighborhoods. But anyway, it's obviously very needed, and I love that I think it was very smart that you provided motivation for people to submit their report with the legal assistance, and brilliantly conceived and executed. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So the good news is you did a really great presentation on a project that is of your place, and even the visual language you used was of the place. It was really well done. But I have a complaint, and it's that you just have depressed me. Not about the crime, I knew about that. But here's why it depressed me, and so this is my main criticism. So first of all, you're undergraduates, for pity's sake, so you made me feel completely inadequate, okay? Because you shouldn't be this good at this stage in your career, okay? And that's the first thing that's depressing, but in the best kind of depression, right? But the second one is that here's what's going to happen. Somebody from Televisia in Mexico or some animator is going to see your presentation and then seduce you out of experienced design into filmmaking and will lose your talent from where it's needed, okay? Because that was cinematically really stunning, okay? So don't get seduced, okay? Keep the talent, and then please come back in 2 years so I can see what you've done next. Because when I see work like this, it makes me, I mean, I love the work, but all it does, there's a great guy named Rasher who wrote a book, and it's called Unpopular Essays, but he points out that in design, it's guaranteed that you are always failing, because the better you perform, the faster you raise expectations, and so you can never meet expectations. So the better you do, but the other part of that is you never succeed, therefore you always have a job. So that's why you should stay in this business, stay in the job, because you'll always be employed. Thank you very, very much.
Well, thanks.
My name is Zhenyuan Liu. I'm from the College of Design and Innovation in Tongji University in Shanghai. And I'm very happy to be here today and to share the projects that we did with Microsoft Design Expo this year. So here we are. This is the team from Shanghai, and obviously we look very happy with the challenge from Microsoft, and of course because this is the first week, and this is our first time to participate in such kind of design event, and we realized at the very beginning that we should bring our local perspectives into such kind of international design cooperation, design event. So here are some numbers. We have 11 students involved into this project, and including 3 foreign students from Korea, Finland, and Switzerland. And they are from 5 different backgrounds: product design, interior design, engineering design, etc. And we divided the 11 students into 3 groups. So as I mentioned before, we tried to, each of the group focuses on a unique problem under the theme, get connected and stay connected. And they tried to meet the design challenge by understanding and solving a local problem in China. So before the selected team gives their presentation, I would like to briefly introduce the rest 2 projects from DNI. So this is project 1, we call it Happy Mom. In this project, the team spotlighted on an emerging phenomenon in China's big cities. that there has been a rising number in Chinese young moms being full-time housewives after giving birth. So these young moms are mostly white collars with high-level education background, and they used to have good incomes and social networks. Most of them will go back to work when their kids are in school age. This is mainly due to the economic concerns, because double incomes in a family is very necessary and common in China's big cities. So the problems here are the young moms are disconnected with their social networks and they don't have time for self-improvement. So to answer the design challenge, the students came up with a community-based system which provides a platform to help young moms share and take the most advantage of their individual resources, such as skills, knowledge, or time. In this way, the young mothers will have more time to stay connected with their social networks and to work on self-improvement for a better preparation for their future career. And this is the second project we call dating. And the problem here is that in today's China, the 1980s generation has stepped into a suitable marriage age when we'll face pressures from both family and the society. So these two pictures show a unique phenomenon in the famous People's Park in Shanghai, where parents are trying to help the children to find a right dating candidate by exchanging their information and requirements, such as age, height, education, background, vocation, and so on. So meanwhile, the children are more inclined to present their real personality in the world of internet. So the objective from Group 2 is to create an internet-based platform. It collects one's information and behavior which are captured on the internet and generate a vivid personal profile. This helps the users to find a better match for dating. So this is the two projects. And the third project is the one which is going to present today. And I'm very glad to introduce the team members. They are Wang Wei, Chen Hong, Huang Mingdong, and Ismo. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Wang Wei from Tongji University. My major is industrial design.
Good afternoon. My name is Huang Mingdong. I majored in industrial design too.
Good afternoon. My name is Chen Hong. My major is environmental design.
Good afternoon. I'm an exchange student from Aalto University, Helsinki, Finland, and I'm majoring in engineering.
Yeah, to start with our presentation, we want to ask you a question. How many of you live and work in a different city than your family? Can I see your hands? Wow, thanks very much. Apparently, some of us leave our family. I'm one of you. But we don't think it would be a very big problem because there are a lot of advanced technology for communication we can always resort to stay connected with our family members. But can you ever imagine if you didn't have all those techniques which can help you stay connected with your loved ones, and you could only see your family once in a year for only maybe 10 days? This would have a very big impact on both you and your children or family. Yes, but this is the reality of some Chinese. You know, it is becoming a very big problem in China where people have to leave their hometown, their children, to earn a better income and life in big cities. But they have very limited way to stay connected with them. So we want to share with you this growing problem in China and give you a little background on how large often problem is becoming. So here we're going to show you a video about this problem. Sorry, just wait a minute. Yes, right here. Yes, you might know that China is now experiencing rapid urbanization. We believe that better city leads to better life. Thus, in the future 10 years, China will still focus on developing cities, especially coastal ones. So under these circumstances, cities' better policy, more job opportunity, and higher salary attracts a huge amount of people pouring to city. And it is reported that there are now 130 million out-migrant workers of this kind, which is almost the same amount of Japan's population. And this is the greatest human migration ever. These people, they were farmers when they're in hometown. They just left their home, left their village, left their mountains, and poured into the city. It is reported that by 2020, there will be 300 million of them. So it's almost the same population of America now. So it's huge, you know. But most of them, they are on the bottom of the society, of the city. They're just doing these manual labors in cities. And at the sacrifice of leaving home, they just want higher income, which they can bring better life to their family in their hometown. Normally, they will mail back more than 1/3 of all their income to their home to make sure that children and their aged parents have this better life. So, now you may understand. Now you might understand that, I'm sorry, there is a little bit mistake here. Now you can understand why they cannot use all those services we always use, because those services are unaffordable and unreachable for them. So what we are going to do for this project, we are going to use this highly restrained technology, devices, and budget to achieve the goal of building emotional connection between those parents and the children. But you might doubt that. Just why bother to create a new thing? Why don't they just take their children with them to the city job, right? Well, they don't want to do that, but the fact is they cannot do. There is two main problems. Let's see.
Yes, there are two main problems, which is economic and policy. Let's see the first one. I'm going to show you the average monthly income of out-migrant workers in China. The data is from National Bureau of Statistics of China. And it was reported that the farmers in China, their monthly income is $35. And out-migrant workers, they have $246 per month, which is nearly 4 times higher. But you may think that is a very good result, but I can show you another two numbers. The first is 770. This is the average salary per month in first-tier cities in China, such as Shanghai and Beijing. So, and another number is 200, which is the average monthly expense for primary school children in cities. So obviously, those farmers or out-migrant workers still can't afford their children to live in the cities. That's why they left their children behind. And another problem is policy. Children are only allowed to have their school entry examination in their hometown. So their parents have to pay extra fee for choosing schools in cities. So that's why they didn't bring their children with them to city jobs. And there are some other facts about the left-behind children here. On the x-axis, there is an age time there, which shows that primary school has more. Among all those left-behind children, primary school students get the worst impact. So, based on all that information, we decided to define our target users as out-migrant workers' parents and their children. And most of the children should be in primary school students, and their age was at 6 to 10.
Yeah. After we decide our target users, we went in deep research in Anhui province, which province have exported a huge number of out-migrant workers in China. We visited several villages here, and we met a little girl. She is a typical left-behind children. Right now, we want to share her story with you. Peng Ting, 9 years old. Her parents left her 3 years ago working in Shanghai, and her father, Peng Tian, 34 years old, construction work. Her mother, Li Juan, 32 years old, food seller. Okay, right now let's went to Peng Ting's home in Anhui. As you can see, the conditions in Peng Ting's home is very limited. So the technology the family they can use is very poor. Like the computers and the internet, it is not available there. And even though the answering machine is not available there, because answering machine is uncommon in China. Chinese have no the habit to use it. And also it is difficult and costly to get the device and the service for them. The only communication tool for them is telephone. Ting is still a primary school student. Quite often she is prized because she is good performance. And when the moment she was prized, she is very happy. She wants to share with her family. But it is difficult to her. She likes to talk to her parents, of course, but she never knows when they have the time to contact. That's why she always stays beside the telephone, afraid of missing a call from her daddy and mommy. So we can see from that, this teen is passive in the connection. Like other left-behind children like teen has no cell phone to connect their parents. They can't afford the cell phone fee. And also no cell phone fee in school policy make it impossible. Teen's father calls her twice a week. Their talk always lasts 3 to 10 minutes. At first, they are very happy to get each other to talk, but the content is always very positive. The most important is they don't know what to talk about. They are unfamiliar with each other's life. The communication is difficult to touch details. Teen's father always asks about her school performance. It makes Teen feel boring and depressed. The more they know each other's life, the more details they can share, which leads to emotional conversation. So from the teen's story, we sum up and get these insights from that. There are high-restraint technology and devices in rural area, and children are passive in connection. The communication between out-migrant parents and the left-behind children are unemotional. In order to solve these problems, we are going to create an affordable, active, and emotional communication helper for them.
Yep, and our solution is based on the following service and leverage existing physical device or low-cost device modifications. So basically, we call this service Home Tom, which is like similar to Hometown, and it's the Tom from your home. The services, it contains the first function of the service is to leave voice message. And each side of the family, for example, the children and the father, can leave message to the server, and the server will contain their message saving for a while. And when there is available message, they can check this out. So here is an example that daddy's message, how daddy's message is checked by the children.
Except the voice message function, the children can also send an emoticon to their parents to share their moods. It includes children's daily moods like happy, very happy, sad, and so on. This video emoticon is easy to be used by children that during 6 to 10 years old. And these emoticons are achieved by stickers. These stickers could modify the common telephone into home tone mode. The emoticon will be sent to both parents' cell phones. They will receive the moon icon along with a simple phrase like, "Daddy, I'm very happy today," and so on. This function helps them sharing daily life and emotional with each other, which leads to more mature understanding. And those pre-information sharing would help them build up emotional and effective conversation during calling. In addition, children could send "call me back" message to parents when they want to contact their parents. Thus, the parents can react when they get it, and children could be not so passive anymore.
Okay, so how this service really works. So both parents and children voice messages can be recorded and restored by the server and sent to each other. And then by pressing the landline telephone button, the system transforms the action in the text messages to parents' cell phones. Children can send their emoticon to express their feeling or send "please call me" message to their parents. Okay, these come together to build a solution that meets the constraints of our target audience. Let's see how the basic system would work.
这么开心哦！
我今天在学校听到老师的表扬，老师说我作文写得好，我今天还和隔壁的小朋友一起跳笔记，玩得好开心啊！
开心就好，开心就好。不过爸爸还要去工作了。
明天再联系吧。
明天也要乖哦。
Okay, not only can the service build up the bridge for out immigrant workers and left behind children, but also bring benefits to those who provide it. By research, we know that technically the service is achievable. Also, we think that service could provide benefits to the service by selling it for monthly fixed fee.
Thank you very much. That is our solution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, okay, cool. So I thought that was just fantastic. That was wonderful. Thank you very much. I like your T-shirts. That's good. Touch.
Thank you.
But no, I thought you did something very, very difficult, very, very well, which is explain some very specific cultural nuance that none of us, probably most of us, weren't aware of, about access to connectivity and the migrant population and what's happening in China right now. I think that was really, you brought it to life really well. It made absolute sense. Suddenly I was aware of a problem that I didn't see before, which was, I think, one of the hallmarks of a good insight, maybe. I also think you did a great job of expressing a really non-culturally specific insight, a human one, that having phone calls with your parents is weirdly awkward. And it's always weirdly awkward, isn't it? Like, I don't know why, but it is. Like, I guess because you don't really want to transmit information so much. It's more of phatic communication. You're just saying, I still exist, I'm not unwell, I think you're great, you say, I'm not dead, all that kind of stuff, but you can't say that. So you say meaningless, pointless stuff about your day to try and express that stuff, So that was really cool, I thought. And I thought the solution was just elegant. Repurposing existing, like it's a hack, you hacked the system, you created the ability to time shift something which wasn't there, and you made a way to transmit emoticons across a voice system, which is really smart and simple. So that was cool. So yeah, I thought it was brilliant. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, actually, I want to ask a question first. So who's staying with the children? Are they alone? Or?
Their grandparents.
The
Yes.
grandparents. Okay. That was just the one detail that I mean, it was before I say anything about the presentation, it's just heartbreaking just to see those. I feel like there's another problem that, a bigger problem to solve there. It seems unnatural somehow, that separation. But anyway, you absolutely, I agree with everything. I mean, you uncovered and revealed the problem to us, and it took a little extra time, I think, just because we're unfamiliar. So, but it was worthwhile. I was trying to think of the right word. I think hack is the right word. I love that you sort of hacked those devices, and again, I'm just echoing everything that you've said first. But no, I love. I'm Paula Abdul in this situation, yeah, I think it was a really elegant solution. I think, again, the one reaction I have is that you're sort of building a solution on a framework that is flawed already, I would argue. I mean, it seems like there are big sort of economic and sort of policy issues that are standing in the way of solving the larger problem. But as well as the technology or the lack of technology is another problem that could be solved. So you really sort of attached your solution to the existing framework and in a really elegant way. The thing that I think is the most, the best part of the project is also sort of acknowledging, and this is what is, I think, in my mind, the most innovative and transportable part of the project. So when the technology improves and maybe the children are living with their parents, you still address this other problem, which is, basically crosses all sort of cultural and class. It divides. It is about the sort of parent-child communication, and I love that piece of it. And I think that piece, that to me, again, that's the sort of core of the project, and your solution is just sort of one of potentially many sort of technological, situational solutions for that problem. Great project, all in all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to further that, it's just Melvin Kranzberg, a historian of technology, has a couple laws. His second law is that invention is the mother of necessity, which is the opposite of the normal way that expression goes. And it's the problems you're addressing are largely technology-induced. And the separation is due to technological change. And you're using appropriate and available technology to counter some of the problems. But it's almost like putting a Band-Aid on a bigger problem. But it can work. The one thing I thought was really interesting is that you framed it in context by the economic context, and not just the design or the emotional one, to what's the economic reality, which I think is, again, really useful. I'm curious on, could I ask a question a little deeper? Have you talked to the phone companies? What impression have you talked to the telecommunications companies about what the reaction is to this idea, or is that on your agenda to do in the future, or have you done that already?
Well, we talked to somebody not exactly in the company, but somebody familiar with that thing, and we know that nowadays that kind of services is already existed, so it's not a hard thing to achieve that. So, and they think how much it would be is like 5 RMB, which is almost $1. So we think that's appropriate for those migrant workers. They are affordable for that. So we kind of want to push it a step forward, maybe, yes.
So that's really good, and it's also really interesting that that you've dealt with a feature phone and not a smartphone, which is the reality. And again, I just make the same comment I made last time. In terms of the analysis, the economic, the social, cultural, emotional, but not just to mention the design solution you came up with, that you're doing that as an undergraduate project is just really mature. It shows great, you clearly worked really hard on it, and I just thank you for bringing it to us and sharing it. It was a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was pretty wonderful.
Yeah, is your mic on?
I think so.
No, it's not.
No. Well, we're coming to a close of Design Expo. It's been extraordinary. We and other people work really, really hard to put this together. And it's really, when you see the work, you realize that's what it's all for. It's really inspiring about the talent that's out there, especially as some of these are undergraduates. So we've got the website.
Right, yeah. So Design Expo has a site within the context of the research site. So absolutely feel free to check that out. I think we streamed the video live today, so you people watching it would obviously know that if you're watching it streamed. But there'll be an archive, and you'll be able to go back and see the video at a later date. Also, I would encourage you to come by and see us at Demo Fest at 4:30 over in McKinley. All the students will be there with their projects. If you have any questions, and we're sorry we couldn't get to them today or during the presentation, feel free to come over and ask them, because I'm sure they'll be happy, polish up their pitches, and give you some feedback on what they've done. But I also wanted to take a moment to maybe just get a round of applause for all the students who worked extraordinarily hard, were jet lagged, and stayed up very late trying to make adjustments to their presentations. So let's hear it for them. Also, a round of applause for our esteemed panel of critics, Ferris, Lisa, and Bill. They did an amazing job, and we couldn't have done it without them, so thank you.
Thank you very much for coming out. And last, I'd like to close and thank Mike for all the work he's done to help make this possible, as well as my co-chair, and then Mariah Lockwood, who's over here. All the logistics, let's give her a hand, for taking care of that, and some of the other folks that helped make the website and the other parts of Design Expo work. Thank you so much for coming, and in an hour you can go over to Demo Fest and talk to the students and see some of the stuff that they have up close. Thank you very much.
Look at the clock. 3 on the nose.
Wow.